I stayed in Grove Street, which is Fountain Bridge near Toll Cross, and I only had one bedroom and a sitting room. I had 5 children, so I needed something bigger. Give the children bedrooms. I got offered a house at Broome House. I wasn't really interested. I'd heard a wee bit about Clermiston. I thought, I'll wait. And I got Drumbrae Drive, and I came here to 3 lovely big bedrooms after just having one. So that's how I came here.
We were on the what we called the corporation list, housing list, and our name came up for a house, but it was in Gracemount. So I went to have a look, and I didn't care for Gracemount, and I said, no, I'll stay with you and keep hoping I'll get a house in Clermiston, because I wanted a garden. I was a keen gardener and I wanted to have a garden.
And what I said, they fitted down to Granton, and it was only a 2-bedroomed house, but to come up there was more bedrooms, more space. Back and front garden, which was good for the children.
I was living at the time in a prefab, which was just temporary for the wall, and then they took those down at Clermiston, and then it was just bare ground. So, well, I got one of the choice ones, with being the first one. The man wanted the land, you know, to build his own houses. So I was able to pick one. So I've been in that house about 56 years now, which is a long time. And that was the first ones to be built then, you know.
My family, my mum and my dad and my brother came from a place called Cannon Mills, which is in town, and they lived in a tenement or a group of flats at that point, but they lived in a very small house, and so they had the opportunity to move to Parkgrove Terrace, and so the 4 of us moved to Parkgrove Terrace in about 1954, I think it was.
We moved here in January 1954. The snow was on the ground. It was a terrible winter. There was no street lights, there was no pavement, there was no roads, and it was mud. The ground was always muddy, and my mum never put carpets down in our house for about 3 months because she refused to, because we all trailed muck into the house. My mum wasn't well at that time, and the stairs were very bad for her. She couldn't breathe very well, so she needed a nice house out in the country, as it was then. No one had heard of Clermiston in town. When you said you stayed in Clermiston, they thought you lived very far away. But we loved it. We just loved the freedom. It was super.
I didn't realise I was moving into the country. I couldn't tell you, when I came to look at the house, I got a tram car to the bottom of the hill, the bank. And I had a pushchair with a wee girl in it, and my neighbour. And we're walking up the Drumbrae main road, and the men were building the bungalows on the Drumbrae, and I stopped this chap and I says to him, excuse me, can you tell me where the council houses are, please? And he just looked down to Clermiston and he says, well, you've come up 2 hills, you've got another 2 hills to go, and then just turn into the right. And that happened my first day I came here. Didn't like my house when I first seen it because my kitchen to the front, but other than that I loved it. Look, here I am, kitchen's still to the front, I'm still here.
It was just all fields, trees. There was no other. They were building the houses in the main road. They started on that. After that, it was just all fields.
And behind my garden, there was just sheep. Very, very, very worrying. But then they started building, and they built all these houses. They built Lizzie's house and Margaret's house, and all these houses over there.
There seems to be more trees and greenery around now than what they used to be, you know, because when we first came it was just a bare place, you know, but since then, of course, all the trees have grown. It makes it better looking anyway, you know.
And the first houses didn't even have a road, and they didn't have a pavement, so we all had to walk to Clermiston to get our shopping.
The supermarket wasn't there. First thing that got built was a pub,
Fox covered pub.
It was co-op vans to get your food. There was no shops. You either had to walk to Clermiston or walk to Davidson's Mains. No, well, there was tram cars. Yes, there was. Came to Clermiston and came to Davidson's Mains, but you had to walk all that lane. You push the pram up the hill, down the hill, whatever. But everybody just seemed to come together. The neighbours, everybody just seemed to help each other, and it was just one of these places to live. And it's still the same. Still where I am.
No buses came in to the area at all. You had to walk from here to Davidson's Mains for the number 1 bus, and also we had to walk from Clermiston up Drumbrae when you were coming home or want to get a bus. You had to go down Drumbrae and back up again at night.
My father was a motor mechanic, and from we were really small, we always had the use of a car, and we had a car when we came here. And he used his car to go to work at a big company that's up in the Maybury. It used to make paper, and so it was. Yes, we went Pupils, we went lots of places in our car, so we were really lucky.
Did I have a car? No. My husband had a car, of course, which made me lazy, that I didn't walk too far. He always took me anywhere, you know, here, there and everywhere. But I've never driven a car. I was the only one in the whole family that didn't drive. I often wish I had, but I don't know, I just didn't do it. But I do regret it. I wish I could have driven a car.
When I moved here, there was no school, dear. No school at all. And my children, first of all, went up to Fox Covert House for about 6 months. And then they went down to Carrick Now School in a bus from the end of Drumbrae Drive to Carrick Now. And the people were complaining because the children were having to walk down the Drumbrae Drive to get to the bus. So I took a petition up to go to the council to try and get the bus straight to the top of the hill. When I went to the council, I was told there was no way because Drumbrae Drive is not built for buses. Well, you see how many buses come up Drumbrae Drive now, so it's a wee bit different, isn't it?
We went in a double-decker bus, a number of double-decker buses that were driven into Parkgrove Street and were taken up Drumbrae Road North. Sometimes we didn't actually get to school because if it was snowing, the buses couldn't make it up the hill, so we got a day off.
This is the school that I came to when the school first opened. But before that, I had to travel by bus to Carrick Now School, and then when we were not able to keep going to Carrick Now School, we went to school in an old building called Fox Covert House, which is away up at the top of the hill. It was an old mansion house, and we had lessons there for a little while until the school here was ready for us to come in.
Once Clermiston Primary School was built, I came here, and when I came here, my classroom was in one of the huts, which is in the playground, which is now the Monroe Centre, and that's where I first went to school at Clermiston before we came into the big school itself.
Well, I was 15 when we moved here, so I was already at Boroughmuir School in town, so I only went, I had to get the bus into town and the tram car up to Bransfield to the school, and that cost me a penny.
There was no purple uniform or badges or anything like that. I think we just turned up in our ordinary clothes. I don't think the uniform came in until about, 1958, 60, something like that. I can't honestly remember, but the uniform was just starting to come in as I was leaving Clermiston Primary School.
The teachers that I remember was Miss Cameron, who got married and became Mrs. Raymond, and then I remember Mr. Crooks, because he had been ill, and he told us part of his treatment made him radioactive when he was in hospital.
At primary school we had the belt. I was at South Merseyside Primary, and only once, and I'll never forget it. It was because I was talking to the girl next to me, so I got the belt. It hurts. You had to stand with your hands like that, and the teacher whacked you. And the boys often got the belt, they were always getting into trouble. But if you took your hands away, the teacher missed and they hit her legs, and so you got more than one shot of the belt after that.
In the street here we played rounders, all the children played rounders. We played peavers. I don't know if you played peavers. We used to get a polished tin and chalk, and you made the peaver jump thing on the pavement. We went swimming when we could, but that meant we had to go either down to into Infirmary Street in the centre of the town, or down to Leith, or down to, I've forgotten where it is, off Kent Place. So we had to travel, and we were promised a swimming pool, but it never came in my school time here.
Oh, vastly, vastly. All those years we had to do a lot of update, modernization. We had electricity and we had gas, but there were other things had to be done to the house as the years go on. We had to put in a new kitchen, a new bathroom, everybody had to do that, to bring it up to date. It had to be kept after all those years.
Oh, well, I built a front porch over my front door, and I have built rooms at the back of the house as well, and also kitchenettes have now changed to a great extent. You didn't have the cupboards you have on the walls in these days. You had a larder, which was brick built in the kitchenette, and another cupboard for keeping your plates, pots and pans and that type of thing. And that has all been done away with now. On the floor we had what we called linoleum. We didn't have carpets, it was linoleum we had on, and you had to wash that and get down on your hands and knees to polish it, to keep it nice and clean.
Oh yes, that's changed a lot. We only had the coal fire. We moved in and we had to get more heating. There was no fires in the bedrooms, so we had to get radiators in, and so we just started from there. I think like everybody else, because we didn't have any...
the coal cellars in the house, within the house.
It was in the back of the kitchen, was joined onto the kitchen at the back with the back door to go out to the back garden. But now it was taken away. It made the kitchen look bigger and put table and chairs in, and with units, for all the dishes and the cupboards at the bottom. But it definitely has changed a lot, I think. So you've top to bottom, the streets have changed a lot. People's have got extensions built, what do you call that? Conservatories, is it? You've got all glass in it.
Yeah.
And I've got new windows and new doors, and it's a big change in the house.
Of course, it was just newly built when I went in. We were the first ones in it, so we got an extension put at the back, which made it a bit bigger, and I've never regretted it. It's quite a good house,
My home has changed quite a lot, because when we came to Clermiston, we had one fireplace to heat the living room, and we didn't have any fires or heat anywhere else in the house. And now in the house I live in, we have central heating, and we have heating in every room, and we have hot water that comes through the taps, but we only had hot water if we had the fire on, which would heat up a back boiler and give us hot water, and then we could have an immersion. But we had something called a geyser, or an ascot heater, which was a little gas appliance, and you could get hot water from that without having to have the fire on to heat up for lots of hot water to have a bath.